Hey guys, welcome back. Let's jump into the practical session of class and object. So we have gone through what exactly is a class, we have gone through what exactly is an object. In this video, we are going to look into how we can create and class an object in our Python. So for this again, we have a Jupyter notebook. So I have just hidden the toggle header and the toolbar. So view toolbar, if you want to use them, you are just good to go, use them. Let's close it out. Now again, let me repeat one thing, that Python is an object oriented programming. Almost everything in Python is an object with its properties and methods. The strings, list, everything you have defined, they were of a particular class. Here are some of the terms that we are going to go through in this session. Okay, in this complete section, we are going to go through all of these. So we have already looked into class variable, data member. Now one by one, once we approach these topics, then we are going to talk more and more about it. Okay. So let's have our first look into class and object. Okay. First of all, what is OOPS? OOPS is an programming paradigm that provides a means of structuring programs so that properties and objects are bundled into individual objects. What I mean by this is, let's take an instance, an object could represent a person with properties like name, age, and address, and behaviors such as walking, talking, breathing, and running. Or it could represent an email with properties like a recipient list, subject and body, and behaviors like adding attachment and sending. All of these is what I mean by an object oriented programming. Okay. So you can just say that object oriented programming is an approach for modeling concrete real world things like cars, as well as relation between them, like companies and employees, students and teachers, and so on. OOP models real world entities as software objects that have some real data associated with them and can perform certain functions. One more way we have, that is apart from OOPS, is procedural programming. So that is something which C is having, but we are not going to go much deep into this. But just know that it structures a program like a recipe, in that it provides a set of steps in the form of functions and code blocks that flow sequentially in order to complete a task. That's about procedural programming. This is something which you can get in your Viva, or you are going to apply for some interviews. These are some of the questions you are going to get asked. So what is an object oriented programming? What is an procedural programming? Now let's define our first class. So let's write off the syntax. So again, we just, it's quite simple. We just have to write class name, colon, and inside of this you have to write your expression, your methods, or anything, whatever you want to do, your data members. Let's write data members. Data members are just value. If you ever feel that you're not getting the meaning of any value, you can just go up and check a class variable or instance variable that holds data associated with a class and its object. So that's about member. So you can have different data member, you can have methods. Again, what are methods? Methods are functions that are defined inside a class. So you can just go through this, a special kind of function that is defined inside a class. Now we can have a lot of things inside of this. Whatever statements you want to write, you can write. Let's create our first class. So class, let's write the class name as new. Inside of this, again, colon. Right now I'm just going to pass it off. That's it. That's how we can create a class. Now if you want to check my statement, that is everything in Python a class related to class and object, that is object oriented programming, you can just check it out. How? Let's create a list 1 comma 2 comma 3 4 5. Anyhow, this should be working. So this is a list. Let's assign to an lst. Now let's check the type of it. Type of lst. So this is a list, but Let's add the print statement over here, and this will tell me that this belongs to class list, and whatever methods that you are having in list, all of those were methods related to that class, as I've told you. Okay. So all of those were predefined and already present in list, but we are gonna now look into how to create a class that we have already covered out. Now we are gonna see how can we create an object of that class. So let's write class new back again. I'm gonna pass it as of now. Now, how to create an object of that class? If you could recall in our object introduction presentation, it was quite like this. So you have to create the variable name n equals to, that's it. You just have to write the class name with parenthesis on and parenthesis close. So let's run it out, and if you check type and let's print it out. So you can see that it is of class new. Now what is this mean? We are going to talk about this in a couple of minutes later. Okay. Just know that this belongs to class new. It's quite the same thing. That's how we can define a class. Let's look into by creating a new data variable inside this. So class, let's create a class student. Inside of let's write role equal to 24, name is equal to Paul. That's it. Let's create some object. Yeah, I'm creating this in the same cell, but if you want, I will create it in a different cell. So let's create out in a different cell. So s equal to, so let's take s1 equals to student. Now, if you want to get the variable that are the data members of the class, then it's quite easy. You just have to write s1 dot role, whichever variable or data members value you need or method you need. So s1 dot role is 23. Then similarly s1 dot name is Paul. That's how we can create it out. Let's look into one more example before jumping into our next section or next video. Class, let's create employees. Class employees. Now always make sure that if you are using a capital E, you have to always use capital E. Why? It's because Python is case sensitive. Let's create some variable. emp id is equal to 1bo17cs102. Writing some random numbers. Let's write company is equal to ABC PVT Limited. Let's create name. Name is equal to Ravi. Done. Let's create an employee. So let's say emp1 is equal to employees. That's it. Let's create emp1 and get the values out of it. emp1.emp.id. Let's check it out. So it's the same thing, that exactly what I need. You can print it out. So same thing we are going to get over here. Let's gonna check for company. emp1.company ABC Private Limited. Let's print it out. emp1 dot name Ravi. So that's how we can create a class, a data member of it, and then that's how we can create an object. So let's write it. Creating object. Over here, let's write creating class. Same thing over here. Make sure you go through all of these and you are quite clear with this, because all of these that we are learning right now is some of the advanced topics that you are going to use a lot. Let's name this as class and object. So let's write class. Okay, so that's all for this video. Let's jump into our next video where we are gonna talk more about class and objects. We are gonna look into init function, then self, what exactly is self, what exactly is init. So let's jump into our next video.